In this video, I'm going to talk about the Kill Team narrative play experience. Hello AOS fans, yes, Robin here in the studio, still very excited to say those words. Today I'm going to talk about Kill Team. We've released a few videos about Kill Team now the embargo has lifted. This one is about the narrative play experience. I've had longer with the rule book, so we thought I'd do this one on my own as well. Those pictures going, yes, nod. So I'm doing this one on my own. So but do check out the others. We've got a little unboxing for you. We've got our things we like about the game, so just go and have a look at what else we've recorded. Hopefully you'll enjoy those, but this video I wanted to concentrate on the narrative play experience because I think it is the best thing about the game, apart from maybe the models. We had a bit of a laugh about that in one of the other videos, but the models are great, but the narrative play experience, I think for me, this game is going to live and die by the narrative play experience. I know there are people who love to play the match play, but I think this is written with narrative play in mind, and I think they've learnt the lessons from Warcry where the narrative experience was a little bit duff. It was all right. There's some really great things about it. I love that you don't have to play with the same group of people all the time. And it's not like a big campaign map or anything. You'll kind of have your own personalised campaign, which is really good. So you can play with your regular players. So I can play them with Pete, and we can play different war bands, different kill teams with Pete, and they can all be going on their own different missions. It doesn't really matter. But if somebody else comes in and they bring their kill team, we can play them, and they can be working towards their campaign, and we can be working towards ours. That's really great, particularly if you're a club player and go in and out and playing different people every week. So it's really good. I really like that aspect of it. But let's have a little look. Let's break it down in detail so we can see what you think of it. Okay, so we start with a single kill team. The match play, you pick your 20 models and then you'll start to build kill teams when you know what the scenario and things you're doing is. We're not talking about match play, this is narrative play. You start with a single kill team. This obviously will expand over time, but at the beginning it's just going to be 8-10 models, and that's all you're going to have. And then you need to pick things like a name for your kill team, a name for all the fighters, which is really nice because that's got a story going straight away. You have your own base, so you can kind of decide where your base is, whether it's like in a cave or is it I don't know, in a trench, or do you have a nice headquarters? Are the Imperium putting you up somewhere nice? Probably not. And then you've got a history, and you can also define quirks of your warband. And if you look in the Octarius book, those things are in here for the 2 warbands included. So you'll fill out a narrative data sheet and data cards, one for each of your fighters, and then also for the they have data cards and data slates, sorry, confusing, but the data slate is for the whole warband, and the data cards is one for each fighter, and that tells you how many experience they've gained and what their name is and all that kind of stuff. And and then obviously the data slate has where your base is and what kind of quirks your team has. There's all sorts of interesting things, like they were used, your warband was used for propaganda or something like that, or it's it's known for doing seek and destroy missions or explosive exploits, that kind of thing. It kind of gives you the flavour of your warband. It's all about telling the stories of what's going on in the Octarius zone, which I'll come on to in a minute, but the big area of battle, which is obviously, I think, it's got wider 40k implications. I don't know a lot about, because I don't follow it that much. But as you go through, like most of these types of games, your fighters will gain experience points, and so you get as you gain experience points, you start as an adept. They all start as adepts, all of them, even the leader starts as an adept. You have adept, veteran, ace, grizzled, and then revered. To get to revered, you've got to score 50 experience points. Sounds like quite a lot. I think it is quite a lot. When you're fighting, you get 1 XP for every kill you've made, and then you get them for if you succeed, if your particular fighter succeeds in doing one of the objectives in the game, whether it's a tactical objective or a strategic objective. If your fighter is involved in doing that, then they get an extra XP. We're probably not looking at that many XP per person per game, which is great because it means you've got a slow expansion. When you gain a new rank, you gain a battle honour. Now, curiously, it does say you can actually lose XP as well. I couldn't find where or how, but you can lose XP, so you can go down and you lose your battle honours. So battle honours, when you get your first battle honour, you have to choose. what area your battle honour is and what kind of fighter you are. So there's kind of combat, staunch, marksman and scout. So there's kind of just general terms, and not all fighters can be all things. I'm guessing if you pick like a demolitions expert, he can't be a scout, that kind of thing, but they're given by little icons on the cards, and there's 4 of them, and they're orange if you can be them, and greyed out if you can't. But once you pick one, you're locked into that. So if it's your combat specialist and he's got his XP for ruthlessly stabbing somebody or in the stomach and leaving them to die, then they are combat specialists, and then from then on they can only take combat battle honours. And the battle honours are themed to whatever area you've chosen. So the combat, staunch, marksman or scout, they're all themed depending on what they are. I haven't written those down for you, but the fun of that is finding that kind of stuff out for yourself. Similarly, in a game, as well as gaining XP, you might die. And actually dying is quite hard. So if you're taken out of action, first thing is if you're taken out of action, you can only get, I think, 3 experience points as a max. I think that's right. It might be if you get a battle scar. How do you get a battle scar? You get a battle scar, so if you're taken out of action, you roll a d6. If you get a 1, then you've got a battle scar. If you get another one on another table, then you die. So it's actually quite hard to die, especially as there are ways, medics and things enable you to re-roll on tables as well. So the chances of getting a number of ones to die are quite slim. Once you've got battle scars, then the chances of dying increase, because battle scars are things like you've lost an eye or your arm is incapacitated, so it makes you worse and you're more likely to die on the battlefield. And then for every one you've got, you take 1 off your dice roll, so you drift gradually towards 1. But they're not quite as permanent as things like losing an eye, although I said that because if you rest for a period of time, you can actually start to lose battle scars. If you don't take part in battles, then you can lose your battle scars. Of course, you may have a situation where eventually you might run out of fighters to use if you're resting them all. So you're going to have to throw in some battle scarred fighters into the fray, which is all very thematic and lovely. So that's kind of how your kill team progresses. One of the other key things for a kill team is that it has a base of operations. Now this, in some ways, doesn't really take part in the game. You can't fight out of your base of operations, I don't think. I haven't seen anywhere where that is. It doesn't take part in the games, but it's effectively your bunker, where you hide when you're, or not hide, where you rest, where you recuperate, the place that you live when you're not out there doing the bidding of your generals. And it starts out empty, so it doesn't really have any use as such, but almost immediately in the game you can start to requisition things. Requisitions are how you acquire various things. You can acquire new people through requisitions, so that's how you get new recruits. You can acquire new equipment through requisitions, it's like basically a supply drop, or you can acquire all sorts of things, but you can also acquire an upgrade to your base of operations. It's called a strategic asset, and that adds facets to your assets. Strategic assets adds a facet to your base of operations, which might mean a med bay, which means you're even less likely to get horrible battle scars. It might mean a surveillance system, so you can get some pluses when you're at the beginning of the game for initiative and things like that, or a war shrine. So you've actually can get some sort of your fighters can get a bonus if they're new. I think it is a war shrine, and go and pray at the war shrine and get kind of inspired, that kind of thing, if they're a fairly low rank. Again, all added to these themes. So these assets add to the thematic side of the game, which I really love. For your equipment, really important, because equipment is various different bits and pieces, not like guns and stuff, but like extra things like night vision goggles, or I'm not sure what else, but also stims, I think, various things that you could use to boost your fighters, maybe a better communications equipment, that kind of stuff. Again, thematic, but you get that through a supply drop, which again you can get through requisition. You actually start with 4 requisition points. So although I said you start with just a kill team, you get 4 requisition points. You could actually requisite. You could actually get 4 new people straight off before you even play, because there are various requisitions and they have times when you can use them. But equipment and recruiting are basically before or after a battle. So you could straight away get a new kill team member or a new equipment, but each time you spend 1, obviously it's gone. You can have start with 4. Once they're gone, I say once they're gone, that's not quite true. You can have a maximum of 5. So you start with 4, you have a maximum of 5. you can get new ones for completing Spec Ops, Specialist Operations, which I'll get to in a minute, but they're the way to gain requisition points. So you've got to be careful. They are scarce. You're not going to, I don't think you're going to earn them too often. So if you do blow them all at the beginning, then you might find later in the game you might need them for other things, because they are also the ways that you get extra strategic assets for your base. So there's a kind of a little balancing thing going on there, but you may find actually I just need to get somebody fresh pair of legs in who isn't injured or whatever. So I need to recruit a new fighter to my kill team. As well as equipment. Similarly, if you complete one of these specialist operations, you also get rare equipment, and they're obviously much better. You don't get those anywhere near as often. You can't get those in a supply drop. The only way to do those is to complete specific missions, and then you get this amazing rare equipment, which is really, really useful. And you assign the equipment at the beginning of the game, and I think you basically have it then. That's your stash, which is kept in your base of operations. You have it once you've got it. You have it. I don't think it can break. So you sign it out to whoever's fighting in one game, and then it gets signed back in again at the end of the game, and then it can be signed out to a different person in the next game. So yeah, I really quite like that. I'm not sure if you die with the equipment whether that's it, whether you lose it. I haven't checked that. I'd have to check, but I don't think so. So I mentioned there the specialist operation. That is kind of where the meat of the game happens. The meat of the narrative plays in the specialist operation. The Spec Ops. There's lots of Ops. There's Tac Ops and Spec Ops, but that is where the meat of it happens. And you basically can, as I said at the top of the video, you are doing your Spec Op, and that's what you're trying to achieve for your kill team. And somebody else will be trying to achieve something different, and they might be at odds with each other, or they might actually be quite similar. It doesn't matter. Or it might just be an open play game, and your opponent isn't doing that at all, but you're playing a game with them, and you can do it. So that's. Yeah, I really like that aspect of it. There are rules for balancing things out. If you've done like 10 of these and they haven't done any, there's rules for balancing that out a little bit. So that's really good. So you can only choose one Spec Op at a time that you're trying to achieve, and you can complete Spec Ops multiple times, but you have to leave. You can do one, and then you have to do two more, and then you can do the same one again before you. So you have to do two different ones before you can do the same one again. And there's quite a few in the book. I didn't count how many were. I would say there's 10, at least 15 maybe, Spec Ops, and they're all beautifully thematic. They consist of two operations. So you've got two things before you get to the bonus. So the bonus will be like some rare XP, some rare equipment, or some extra XP, or some sort of additional asset. They're all different, but you have to complete two different operations, and the first one is normally quite long. It's normally they're very thematic. So like the elimination one has you've got to score relevant Tac Ops, which are the data cards that you can score things like a mark, target, and execution. So it's an elimination one. So I guess the theory is that you're trying to eliminate specific targets on the battlefield, and once you've done that a number of times, then you can move on to the second operation. There's one called Perform Ritual, where you have to prepare the ground, and then at the end you have to plant your banner. You have to do the plant the banner tactical operation. And there's a great one called Breakout, which I really like this idea of. You imagine that you're on the run, and then there's somewhere in there you have to score the attack up behind enemy lines. So kind of all beautiful thematic stuff, and you could choose one. You can do it to the end. I think you can abandon it if you're not doing it, but I guess that's a waste of time. So you probably wouldn't. Once you've started, you want to keep going. I guess some of the attack ops were going to depend on what the makeup of your kill team is. You're probably not going to do the scouty ones if you haven't picked any scouts or anybody particularly good at scouting. Maybe, I don't know. The missions in the core book. So there are a load of missions in the core book. I think there's 9 missions in the core book, and actually there's 9 missions in the Octarius book too. But I think the 9 missions in the core book, they're symmetric or symmetrical, and they are. You can play them for any type of play, so open, narrative, or match, but they are suitable for matched play. Because they're even. The ones in here are a little bit more thematic. They're thematic to the Octarius campaign world. I'm hoping we're going to see lots more, or not too many more, but more campaign worlds as time goes on for the game. You've got 9 more missions in here, and they are symmetric and asymmetric, so you've got some slightly, where the odds are stacked against you, but that's all part of the story. I don't think there's a kind of overreaching. There is an overreaching story up. I don't think the missions actually form a narrative pattern. They just are kind of, you're on Octarius and you're doing this stuff, and they're themed, but they're not. You don't have to do them in a certain order. There's certainly a table in there for doing them randomly. I don't know if you can do them in order, whether it makes a story. I had a quick look. Not really. The terms are kind of deliberately vague, the terms of engagement, for the reason that although you get the Oryx and the Krieg in the box, you can obviously fight with any of the kill teams you've got, and it actually specifically states that you can. The flavour text is kind of deliberately vague, so you and your opponent can decide why the Eldari are fighting the Tyranids at this point. You can come up with a reason what they're trying to do there, and the particular the artifact that you're trying to obtain, say, could actually be like a big nest egg of Tyranid, whatever Tyranids do. So you're basically trying to steal that so you can experiment on it, maybe, or just destroy it, whatever. But so you determine the terms of engagement from the umbrella that games are giving you. And again, that's putting the narrative in your hands, which is the thing I love about this game. I really hope that Pete and I have time to come up with some compelling reasons to have our battles, rather than Underworld is great, but every week we're just fighting because these are the new cards that come out, or this is the new warband. Certainly feels like it's been like that this season. And it'd be really nice to have a reason for what we're doing, a raison d'etre, if you will, for being on the battlefield. So all of the campaigns in the Octarius book, funnily enough, use the Octarius terrain. They're all set up, the maps are all set up with the different configurations of the Octarius terrain, but you haven't got to think of that yourself. I think I'm quite bad. I feel like I'm quite bad at that. Certainly when we played Necromunda, I never quite know what makes a good board. I guess experience helps you with that, but this will give you layouts, so you just plonk the stuff down and away you go. It's all taking part in this Octarius region, but I don't know if you know anything about it. I don't know a great deal about the lore, but it's basically this area has been a subject of a battle between the Tyranids and the Oryx. They've been fighting and actually both getting stronger as a result of this combat, because they've been drawing in other worlds, and the Tyranids are feeding more and more, and the Orcs are getting is getting greater. This kind of was a scheme by a renegade inquisitor to try and carve out to try and destroy both of them. Is actually backfired, and now the Imperium is being drawn in. It's got to do something to keep these guys in check, and then various other kind of worlds. The Necrons are turning up. I'm not sure what reason they might turn up, but the Chaos guys they just love blood, death, and destruction, so they've turned up. And then various other factions. There's little reasoning why they're there. Obviously, there's more reason for the Imperium and the Tyranids and the Oryx to be there, but that's the thing. You can create your own little versions of why you're there, why your kill team is there, what it's doing in the Octarius region. So that's the kind of overreaching story. You're basically, like all these things, there's a whole lot of fighting going on, and you want a piece of the action. So I really love the narrative elements of this game. I think they're done really well. The campaign rules seem really great. They're not too complicated. You're not going to have to spend hours kind of deciding what you've got to do with your fighters, but you can, if you want. You can flesh it out as much or as little as you want, I think, and that's really nice. So I would say it looks like lessons learned across the board for Kill Team. The system is simplified. They've obviously gone away and looked at some other systems and thought, right, okay, what can we do to aid that? Our 40k system is too cumbersome for a skirmish game, which it definitely is. So let's pare that down. Let's pare down the narrative system so you haven't got to have 10 people invested in playing this game all the time to a big campaign. You can just do your own track. And they've got some really nice little bits of lore. And as we've said in some of our other videos, the opportunity to play small model count games of 40k is brilliant for journeyman players like myself and Pete, because we can get a few figures, put them together, paint them up without feeling like we've got pressure to get 2,000 points on the table. So really looking forward to playing this. Actually really looking forward to playing some narratives, creating some interesting stuff. Let me know what you think of the narrative rules. Let me know if you've got any other games that you'd love to play with brilliant narrative rules. If you're recently joined us because of our Kill Team content, then too, please like and subscribe. I reckon September, October is going to be a couple of months of Kill Team for us. I mean, there will be some other things too, but that's when we're really going to get our sort of into the meat of the game, hopefully. There's lots going on in August because it's school holidays, but hopefully September, October October, you will see us with some great Kill Team games. Hopefully sooner, but who knows? I do like and subscribe and all that jazz. Do leave comments telling us how wonderful we are, and we'll see you soon on the Ages of Sigmar. Bye.